All right, guys, welcome to episode 186. This is our first episode of 2024. And like usual, going into the new year, we're going to do a solo episode. And I like obviously an episode already dropped after the new year, but this is the first episode we've recorded after the new year. And I like to go into the new year talking about kind of some things that transpired in 2023 and how we wrapped it up, and then what the plan is moving into 2024. You know, I used to be averse to New Year's resolutions or using the new year as a catalyst for change or for embarking on a new journey or a new goal. It used to feel silly to me because I'm of the mindset, if there's a problem in your life, you probably need to fix it. And who gives a fuck if it's January 1st or July 13th or March 2nd? Like, who gives a fuck? You've identified a problem in your life. Let's start to address it and build a path to correct it. And I still do believe that. But this is what changed my mind on it. You know, I have come from a background where health and fitness has been part of my life for a long time. And I am not without struggle and fault, and I have things I need to work on. But when it comes to health and fitness, I feel like I'm pretty dialed in there. And there's definitely an ebb and a flow. I'm fat as fuck right now, which we'll talk about shortly. But it doesn't worry me because I know the tools that need to be implemented to correct that problem. And so whenever I feel like I need to get back on the horse, I clean up my diet, I ramp up my training, I do what I need to do to feel fit and healthy again. But when I look at it from other people's perspectives that have dedicated their life to their profession or their craft or bogged down at work, and the new year is something that feels like it's going to reinvigorate them. It's something like, you know what? I've dropped the ball for an entire year, and this is a new, fresh beginning for me. And I'm going to use this date as the catalyst to start a new program and change who I am. And if people can do that, who the fuck am I to ever diminish that or tear them down? The only thing that I should do, if somebody says, hey, on January 1st, I'm changing my diet and I'm implementing this program, or for instance, I'm starting 75 hard, I'm going to change my lifestyle. And if they chose that date to change their lifestyle, well, fuck, man, good on them. I wish them success and I hope it works for them, because we all know what works for you or me may not work for the next person. So if you're a person that has decided January 1st of this year, you're going to go ahead and implement some changes, I wish you success. And I kind of regret talking shit on New Year's resolutions in the past because there's 365 days in the year. And it doesn't really matter what day you decide I'm going to change and I'm going to get better. If it was January 1st and you made that choice, I'm fucking proud of you and I want to support that. And so we have a lot to talk about today. Really quick, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and open up my First Form energy drink, the new Screamin' Freedom. Like Andy always says, that is not an ad. But in my case, it kind of is an ad because I'm a First Form athlete with an affiliate link. So if you want to use that, go ahead and click the affiliate link in the show notes below. But, 2023 wrapped up kind of strange for me. The one thing I want to say before we get started, last week's episode with Danny, who's one of my jiu-jitsu white belts, it was the Jiu-Jitsu Chronicles Part 2, the white belt journey into jiu-jitsu. We drank some mushroom tea at the beginning. I thought we had like 1 gram, and we kind of went for a ride. And I haven't even listened to the episode yet. I said, you know what? We made it. I'm going to produce it and I'm going to release it and we'll see what happens. So if it's fucking weird, then it's weird. But that's why it's weird. I think we talk about it on the episode, so it's no surprise. But that's the first episode I've done drinking mushrooms. But the interesting part is a few weeks before that, me and Tyler Stanaway ate 20 grams of mushrooms. And we went out into his woods. It was 25 degrees outside. And we took off our shirts and our shoes and our socks. And we built this giant fire. And as you guys know that have delved into psychedelics, mushrooms, ayahuasca, the English language, I can't convey to you what happened out there, but we basically went into the underworld together. And the understanding that was brought from that journey is that we are each other's Viking fucking brothers, and we are with each other until death. And it was a crazy, crazy night. But the weird thing about that night is, we each had 10 grams of mushrooms, and I could feel like connecting to the earth and the moon and the forest, but it was like pulling me into those things. But it felt chaotic for a long time. And you could hear animals like running in circles around the fire, but out of our sight. It was it was the middle of the night, so it was pitch black outside. You could only see what was illuminated by the fire. And then just outside of where you could see, you could hear animals almost like running in a racetrack around us. And I remember thinking during, I was like, dude, I understand that I've consumed a lot of psilocybin, but those are not auditory hallucinations. There are some fucking big animals out there that are running around almost like in a chaotic fashion. And it was fucking bizarre. And then as soon as, we drank and ate everything about the same time. So we went really, really deep together, and then we came out at the same time. And right as the medicine started to wane a little bit and were kind of brought back into reality, all of these cats like calmly walked out of the forest and sat in a circle around the fire with us. And that's not part of the drugs. That happened. And Tyler goes, whoa, man. He goes, that cat and that cat are mine. They live on the farm with me. The rest of them, and I think there was like 4 more. He goes, the rest of them, I have no idea where the fuck they came from or who those cats are or why they're here. And just another weird little circumstance that took place. Like, I don't know. I was very open and honest about my ayahuasca ceremony and how it made me feel. But there is something going on how mushrooms connect you to nature. If you've ever taken mushrooms and you sit on your couch and you watch TV, it can be a neat experience, and you can laugh and it can be fun. But you take that same amount of mushrooms and you go out on the beach and sit and put your feet in the ocean. Vastly different experience. I honestly think that substance is designed to connect you with nature. And you are not separate from nature when you are consuming psilocybin. You are nature. And I think the lesson in that is we are always nature. There is no separation between us and nature. We are all one. We are part of it. And so the human experience for, the better part of, 500 years is moving towards technology and away from nature. And when you consume mushrooms, and ayahuasca too, I felt this with ayahuasca, it kind of bridges that gap from where we've moved away from nature and been focused on a more technological driven existence. And it kind of harmonizes you back with our roots. And I'll tell you, it feels fucking good. I know that a lot of people look at mushrooms and just think of it as another drug or a party drug. And I promise you, it is not. And the one thing that what makes mushrooms not a party drug is you don't want to eat more mushrooms after eating mushrooms. They are they are non-habit forming. And they are that way by just how they interact with your body. You go on a wild trip, it's not like, fuck man, I want more mushrooms today. It's the opposite. Now, when I say it's not a party drug, that doesn't mean you can't go to a rave and eat mushrooms. People will use it as a party drug. But it's non-habit forming, it's not addictive. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any side effects. I know people can have psychotic breaks, but when you hear about these psychotic breaks in conjunction with hallucinogens, normally there is other drugs present. So, when you go do one of these plant medicine ceremonies, they're very clear about what to eat, what contraindications with other drugs, other substances, even other foods. it's like anything else in life, guys. You do it the right way, I think there's benefits to come. If you fuck up and just take advantage of it and try and do it for your own personal pleasure, where you go get fucked up and party and eat a bunch of mushrooms, well, you know, it happened at the Gorge not too long ago, where a guy, and I believe he was from 2nd Ranger Battalion, went to the Gorge, which is a big amphitheater here in Eastern Washington, where they have like big shows, big concerts, music festivals. He ate a bunch of mushrooms and went to his truck and got a gun and started shooting people. And he killed 1 or 2 people. And so, yeah, fucked up things can happen. But that psychotic break is, I mean, I don't know what the mechanism is of that, so I'm not going to speak to it. But that would be something interesting to learn more about. But from what I have gathered, I think it's usually because you've ingested other things as well. And so, again, I'm not fucking well-versed on that. I'm not going to speak on that anymore. But the whole point of bringing that up is that, dude, me and Tyler, we went fucking deep. And he said that's the deepest he's ever went, as obviously it was for me as well. And man, that's life. Go do crazy shit sometimes, you know? And it bonded us. It forged a friendship deeper than it already was. And man, I think that's fucking powerful. And so wrapping up 2023, I had surgery the first week of December. I don't know how much I've talked about the surgery on the podcast yet, but I'll give you guys kind of the rundown of, I had a left inguinal hernia that had been present for, I mean, the surgeon said it might have been there to some extent my whole life, but it didn't start becoming an issue and hurting and actually like popping out until maybe 6 months ago. It's hard to remember the timeline because it started popping out and I just push it back in and keep training, and it'd pop out and I'd push it back in and keep training. And I did that over and over and over and over. And one of my buddies who's a physician, he was at the gym one night and I'm like, dude, look at this. And he goes, yeah, bro, that's something you're going to have to get addressed. He goes, it's not super dangerous yet because it's not fully like your intestines aren't fully shooting out, but it's going to be a fucking problem. So I went to Columbia, South Carolina VA Medical Center. And the reason I went there is the best hernia surgeon in the country. That's where he does surgery for veterans. Now, he wanted me to make it very clear when I reference him, Dr. Jason Cundiff, he is not a VA surgeon. He works at his own, I believe it's his own practice. He's a highly, highly regarded surgeon. The reason that my friend knows him is because he taught the surgical portion of when my best friend went through medical school. So he's been in the game for a long time. He's also one of the most renowned robotic surgeons in the country. But one day a week, he does surgery at the VA Medical Center there just to give back to the veterans. He said, that's how I can give back to our veterans and show appreciation for what they've done and what they've sacrificed for this nation. So one day a week, I go do veteran surgery. And he goes, so if you're in the VA system and you have a hernia, just fly out here and I'll fucking fix it. And it's going to be free because it's all through the VA, which is pretty fucking wild because the VA is known for kind of botched surgeries, right? Like when I told people, I'm having the VA fix me, as people were like, what? Whoa, wait, what? But it was kind of extenuating circumstances. And so I went out there and there's different ways that a hernia can be repaired. The old school way is they literally just big cut across your abdomen at the site of the hernia and they push it in and they build a mesh wall and then they sew you up. But that's kind of counterproductive because the pressure of the hernia is pushing out and you open that area up. Even though you build a wall behind it, it's still weakening the structure to a certain extent around where the hernia is presenting. And I talked to the surgeon extensively about this. We went out to dinner the night before and kind of got the rundown. So it's something cool to share with you guys because a lot of you guys are athletes working out, training, deadlifting, jiu-jitsu. I guarantee you a percentage of our listeners has a hernia right now. The next way that they did it was to try and make it less invasive and minimize the incision sites. So they do what's called laparoscopic, and they cut small incisions, and the surgeon basically stands above you and does the surgery like almost like chopsticks, right? He has these long instruments in his hands, and he builds the mesh wall on the inside of you with these tools. And that seemed to have pretty good results, but like everything in medicine, they're always looking to advance. And then they moved to the newest method, which is robotic laparoscopic. And that's what I had done, where they set a robot basically on your stomach, and they cut 2 little incisions for the instruments and a little incision to push the head of a camera inside of you. Then the surgeon actually goes and sits on the other side of the OR. He puts his head into like a VR virtual reality console, which is connected to the camera that they pushed into you. And he puts his hands in these gloves. The robot puts its arms inside of you, and then they build the wall from the inside. And what that does is it really prevents the pressure of the hernia causing the any type of failure in the mesh or the incision site, because the place they cut me was like probably 8 or 10 inches higher than where the hernia is. So they cut you pretty high. They go in, they go down, they pull the hernia in, they build the wall, and then they suture you up. And they have to fill your belly with CO2 gas to get it all inflated so they can have room to operate and see what's going on in there, suture you up. And the robot, the gloves that the surgeon puts his hands in, they're set to a 3-to-1 ratio. So the surgeon moves his fingers 3 inches, the robot moves its fingers 1 inch. And that's pretty fascinating. The surgeon told me that's what allows you to do like really, really small little incisions and sutures and really pay attention to detail at a much higher degree because of the movement ratio. So pretty fascinating shit. And I went in and they said it'd be about an hour. And I think it took about twice that long because, and this is where you guys need to pay attention, I was pushing it in. It would pop out and I'd push it in. It'd pop out, I'd push it in. I was doing that for so long. Well, a portion of my colon was popping out every time and I'd push it back in. That portion started to become inflamed. And when organs become inflamed, they can start to fuse to your abdominal wall. And that's what happened. He said he had to surgically remove my colon from my abdominal wall first and then pull it back and then build the mesh wall. And he said he's seen way worse. Like he said, it's not a concern. Like we took care of it. You're good to go. But had you waited for a longer period of time, that would have become a potentially catastrophic issue. So my public service announcement for the Endless Endeavor listeners today is, dude, if you have a hernia, go get it fucking fixed sooner than later. I don't even know why I waited so long. You know, it's kind of, I don't know, procrastination, putting shit off. I also don't like the thought of surgery. And so, yeah, it's just kind of, out of sight, out of mind, I guess. But the other, a couple weeks before I went, I was doing squats and it pushed out so far. It looked like if you cut a softball in half and just put that on my stomach. And I was like, oh, fuck, dude. So I taped it up. We're a jiu-jitsu academy. We have lots of athletic tape. And I basically taped up like a fucking girdle, like a fucking chastity belt around me so I could finish my workout. And it didn't matter. I taped it so fucking tight that I could barely breathe. And when I'd squat, it'd still bulge out. And I was like, okay, it's fucking time. And got in touch with the surgeon, scheduled it, went and handled it. Now, recovery, the craziest thing is I've only been put under anesthesia twice in my life, for my nose and now for my hernia. The hangover the next day, and hangover is the best word I can use to describe it. Actually, not the next day. The surgery was at 7 a.m. So the hangover the day of coming out of anesthesia, fuck, man. And they gave me like fentanyl and Dilaudid. I had a bunch of drugs in my system and I felt fucking miserable and sick as fuck all day. The worst part about it is like being nauseous. Being nauseous sucks bad enough, but being nauseous after hernia surgery, like your abdominal tightens up while you fucking like are on the verge of heaving, excruciating pain. And so, they gave me a bunch of pain meds, which I refused to take. I didn't take any of the narcotics they prescribed me. I should probably go sell those on the black market. But it's not really honest of me to say I didn't take any pain meds because I used the fuck out of marijuana. I don't know if marijuana is legal in South Carolina, but I brought a bunch with me and smoked a lot of weed. And that's how I managed the pain for the first few days. An interesting thing that I will say about using marijuana to manage pain is I don't think it makes it go away. I don't think it, like, I didn't smoke weed and then feel like, oh, dude, I don't feel pain. In fact, I think the pain was even more present because one thing that THC does, at least for me, and I know a lot of my friends because I've talked about this, it really like puts an emphasis on how your body feels. So pain is kind of amplified, pleasure is kind of amplified. But the interesting thing is, even though it's amplified, it's almost like you're observing it as a third party and you kind of sit with it in a different way. So you're not removing the pain. You're almost detaching a little bit and allowing yourself to observe and sit with the pain in a little more tolerable capacity. I think that'd be the best way I could articulate it. And I used that a lot over the last few weeks. Actually, I used it so much that I wrote off weed for a month, and I'm not going to smoke anything. I'm not going to drink any alcohol. I'm clean and sober for the whole month of January because I just needed to fucking reset because I fucking smoked a lot over the last month. But it just allowed me to sit with it, and it was interesting. But the worst part of the surgery wasn't the pain, wasn't the hangover. It's the fact that I can't train jiu-jitsu. It's going on a month that I haven't been on the mats. And I did an Instagram post about this a day or two ago. But it's crazy to me to think like I've been talking on this podcast for 3 years now. And the resounding message that I fucking say every single week is that jiu-jitsu will change your life and you need jiu-jitsu in your life. And that still remains. That's true. But I found a downside of jiu-jitsu. And the downside of jiu-jitsu is when you take it away, man, when you are used to having a physical outlet to deal with anger and rage and frustration, or even emotions that don't rise to the level of those things, but maybe you're just kind of disgruntled at home. You and the old lady aren't getting along too well. You go to the gym and you put 6 minutes on the clock and you grab one of your friends who's another monster. And for those 6 minutes, literally no other problem on planet Earth exists except the man in front of you that's trying to choke you. And for me, that is one of the most effective tools of defeating all those feelings of frustration and anger and rage. It allows me to put all the things of life that aren't going well on the back burner. And for those 6 minutes, it's not only is it not bothering me, it's not even on my mind because it can't be. You can't roll. And I mean, if you're a black belt and you're rolling with a new white belt, yeah, you can actually think about, you can like plan tomorrow's schedule and fucking, what am I going to coach or what am I going to teach tomorrow? And you can think up lesson plans. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Find people that push you. Find people that are dangerous. Find people that can take you out of your comfort zone. And when you're rolling with those people, you have no other option than being 100% engaged in the activity that is the end of your fingertips. And I don't think people do that very much anymore. Like, I think primitive man probably partook in activities on a daily basis that this is what I'm doing right now and nothing else matters, period. If I'm hunting, if I'm foraging, if I'm engaged in warfare, if I'm building a cabin, if I'm if I'm nomadic and I'm on this long overland move across the Arctic tundra, and the examples go on and on and on and on and on, where primitive man was engaged in what was right in front of his eyes, right there in real time. I think that's the key to happiness. I really do. Because when you do that on the mats, you can't help but leave feeling better, especially if you do 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, sometimes we do rounds 6 minutes on, 1 minute off for 90 minutes. Go. And that's the evening. It's called Friday Night Rolls. If you're local, drive up here on a Friday night. It starts at 6 p.m. and it goes till 7:30, and it's fucking radical. And I open the gym up to all academies for Friday Night Rolls because I want to really build the community. I want to get to know the other jiu-jitsu people in the area, and it's a cool way to do that. And it's good for your training because it's people you're not used to training with. So Friday Night Rolls at Electric North Jiu-Jitsu. If you're local, please come and check those out. But we as a culture, or not even a culture, it's not the right word, because a culture is kind of indicative to where you're at geographically or your heritage. We as just a people have become so invested emotionally in what's happening all over planet Earth. You know, I can pick up my phone and I can see a Ukrainian soldier blow up a Russian tank, and I can feel like, and I can see like a 22-year-old kid get blown out of a turret and laying there and it's bloody. And I feel emotions about that. Now, I'm not here to talk about all of the bullshit as it relates to our country politically or whatnot. I'm just saying it doesn't matter if you're for or you're against that war. You feel an emotion from watching men engaging in combat on the other side of the world that literally has nothing to do with you at all. And what we've done is we've programmed ourselves to feel all of these emotions from things that are not part of our physical reality. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like every time you do that, it's bad. I mean, Hollywood, for instance, is another example of that. We sit in front of this screen where certain people say certain things and partake in certain actions, and it makes us feel a certain way. It makes us feel happy. It makes us feel sad. I watch Braveheart and I feel fucking filled with fucking rage and I want to go to war. Like, I do think there's probably some good in that to a certain extent. But the difference is it can't be consuming you. All of the emotions that you feel on a day-to-day basis should not be from observing other people's activities. They need to come from your activities. And that's, guys, fuck, me and Angie got in an argument, not an argument, kind of an argument on, was it Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? It was sometime over the last week because they had a football game on. She's like, I know you don't like football. I said, yeah, that's because I don't like watching other men pursue their dream. Like, I'll go pursue mine. I don't want to watch men on a field pursue theirs. It's not that I have anything against the game. It's not that I think the game is stupid. And I'm also not delusional. Those dudes are fucking monsters. There's plenty of dudes in the NFL that have never trained martial arts a day in their life and could probably kill me with their bare hands. I'm not fucking delusional. But I don't want to invest in that. You know? I don't want to invest my time sitting on a couch watching another man play the game that he is passionate about. Now, people will always say, yeah, but you watch the UFC. Sometimes. And I'm the first to tell you, what I really love about the UFC is watching people use jiu-jitsu at the highest level and how that works in full contact fighting. I used to do full contact fighting. I am fascinated by full contact fighting, but I'm also 43 years old and I don't feel like getting punched in the face every night anymore. And so I have gravitated towards the art of grappling exclusively, but I'm still fascinated in how it applies in a fight. So for me, and I'm not saying this is the right answer, but for me, I enjoy watching my passion get implemented at the highest level. And that's why it excites me. If I didn't train and I was just a fucking fat slob that sat on the fucking couch and Netflix and chilled my whole life and watched UFC on the weekends, I would say the same thing about those people. Instead of watching other men go out on the mats and pursue their dreams. You go out and try it. And I can promise you right now, if you go out and you try it, and I don't care if you're 50 pounds overweight and you've never put a gi on in your life, and you do that, and you roll around with people, and you get a sweat going, and you get fatigued, and you get out of breath, and the last round goes off, and the bell rings, and you're utterly exhausted, and you're drenched, you are going to feel good about yourself. I don't care how much technique you learned or how good you are or how you performed in relation to the other guys in class. You will feel better physically, emotionally, and spiritually from doing it yourself as opposed to watching other men do it. And I think that's an important thing for us to think about as Americans. And again, it's applicable to a lot of societies, but I believe it's applicable to Americans most likely at a higher level. I think we consume more media, consume more television, watch more sports, all that stuff. And so, yeah, guys, stop investing your energy into what other men are doing. Invest it in what the fuck you are doing. It seems like a pretty simple concept, but it's lost on a lot of people. But as usual, the whole reason we went down that fucking rabbit hole is because once you figure out a tool to invest in yourself and that is taken away in a moment in time, well, it's a fucking problem. I'm here to tell you, it's a fucking problem. I felt a lot of frustration. I felt anger. Me and Jenny got in a lot of fights. It was just, I just kind of felt like darkness trying to get back in, and it didn't. I wasn't depressed, and I wasn't like in a really bad way, but life has been kind of an emotional roller coaster for the last month. And that's why I always tell you guys, I'm not your fucking guru. I'm not a Jocko. I'm not a Tony Robbins, because I'm still a fucked up person in a lot of ways. And I have a lot of work to do, and I don't have the best emotional stability or the best anger management. And the journey continues for me, just like it continues for a lot of you. And that's why I like being open and honest about this stuff, because as opposed to someone that's a guru that's giving you answers, I think a lot of people enjoy somebody that's going down the same path and working through life together. It's the whole reason why I'm launching Forge Ferocity, which we will touch on more towards the end of the podcast and give you guys an update on what that's looking like. But I'm here to tell you, I haven't been good in regards to my mental health, and my fuse feels shorter. And I was kind of wondering, like, dude, what's off with me right now? And then I was like, oh, you don't have your outlet anymore. You haven't been fighting men every night. You haven't been doing deadlifts. You haven't been going on your stair mill until you can't take another step. All of that stuff that forces you to live in the moment is no longer occurring. So I'm not living in the moment. I'm fucking sitting on the couch. I watched a lot of TV. I did write a decent amount in my book, which I'm proud of that. But even though I'm proud of that, even though it's productive, even though it's moving the needle in the right direction, it's still not getting the fucking crazy out. And if you don't get the crazy out, in me anyways, it builds and it builds and it builds. And the crazy is going to get out one way or another. The crazy is going to get out on your terms, or it's going to get out on its terms. And my crazy got out a couple times on terms that I wasn't happy with. And man, I had to think about that. I had to realize, like, maybe this is a period of time that is a life lesson. And the weird thing is, like, I know lots of people that have had catastrophic injuries in the war, that have been paralyzed, that have lost a limb. And man, I look at those people and I say, bro, you have 2 little incisions in your tummy and you're fine. Quit being a fucking bitch. And the logical side of me believes that still. It's like, bro, you got 4 more weeks and then you're back. Fucking wah. Go cry about it. And I do think that that's probably the truth. That's the true answer. Like, you got nothing fucking wrong with you. You had a minor surgery and you're going to be good to go in 8 weeks. Shut up. I get that, guys. And I agree with you that are saying that right now. But just because my logical brain can look at the situation and decipher that this isn't that big of a deal, you're fine, move on, and in a couple weeks, this is going to be history. While I get that, I also am just being honest with you. Like, okay, you're right. It's not catastrophic. You're right. It's not a big deal. You're right. I'm going to be fine in 4 more weeks. But that doesn't change the fact that it's not made me feel very fucking good that I haven't had my outlet. And so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because I think it's important to be able to identify problems when you're having any type of emotional issues. Anytime you're feeling a lot more anger than normal, or you're upset, or you're on edge, instead of just saying, oh, yeah, I guess just a shitty day, it's probably not just a shitty day. There's probably some underlying issues that made you arrive at that point. And when I kind of stepped back and did a little bit of a self-assessment, I was like, oh, duh, this is why I haven't been good. And then talking to some of my friends and family, they're like, yeah, we've kind of noticed it too. And it's an important thing to be able to conduct a self-assessment of yourself. You know, I've talked about it on the show before. Well, I will literally look in the mirror and ask myself questions and just force myself to do some type of assessment of how I'm living my life, the choices I'm making, why I'm feeling a certain way, or like how certain things are affecting me, you know? And it's weird because sometimes things happen that are pretty fucking sad or pretty traumatic. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. It's not really pulling on my heartstrings. And I have to be like, dude, why is it? Why do you feel like that? And guys, I think it's a good thing in life to be critical of yourself. Jocko talks about detaching very often. And I think detachment and self-assessment are very closely related because it's hard to assess the things that you are doing as a person if you're not really detached. So kind of take a step back, slow down, and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What's causing these emotions? What's the foundational issue that's going on? And sometimes it's a pretty simple solution, but it's not always an obvious one. Again, it can be simple, but not obvious. Like I was in a bad way for a couple weeks, and now that I've identified it, it almost seems kind of laughable. But for those couple weeks, even though the problem was pretty obvious, I hadn't identified it. And it just kind of led to more frustration and more anger. I wanted to there was a few fucking weeks there. I just wanted to kill people. I was like, please, I want the apocalypse to start today. And so going into 2024, speaking of the apocalypse, let me get another drink of my Screaming Freedom First Form energy drink. I have very mixed emotions about 2024. Very mixed emotions. And I'm going to preface it with this. If we don't see a wide scale catastrophe by January 31st of 2024, I don't think I'm even going to bring it up anymore. Because I've been feeling like something's coming for a long time. Sooner or later, it either needs to happen or I need to shut the fuck up and realize maybe you're just becoming a crazy old man. But as it currently stands, I don't think I'm a crazy old man. There's a lot of weird shit going on. And dude, it's not just me. I was talking to Andy Frisella the other day. He feels it in his fucking bones. I feel it in my bones. Like all of my friends at the gym, like, man, something is off. And this is why I say something is off. The current state of our nation is not sustainable, period. And I think I've brought this up on the show before, but it is not sustainable, period. It is not sustainable financially. It is not sustainable emotionally, with everybody hating each other and fucking hate and vitriol and fucking just constant conflict. It is not sustainable spiritually. It's not sustainable ethically. The things we're teaching our children, the things we're subjecting them to, all the weird sex shit and all that you can be whatever you want, and dicks and pussies are the same, and you can swap back and forth and on and on and on and on. It's not sustainable. A country, a group of people, a society that decides to embrace living in a manner that we have is simply not sustainable. So if it's not sustainable, what does that suggest? Well, that suggests that we are not going to be able to sustain it. We continue to be fucking robbed, stolen fucking blind by our politicians, and they take all of our fucking money and they do what they want with it. And I'm not going to make today's episode about that because we've went off on that enough, and we'll probably go off on that some more. But the thing is, I'm just saying, like, I'm painting the picture of why I don't think we have sustainability in our future. When we have men and women that wake up early in the morning, they fucking work and bust their ass all fucking day, and both husband and wife are working, they need to provide childcare, and they still can't fucking afford to live. They can't afford a single family home. I want to say the average, I just saw a statistic, the average mortgage in America right now is $3,300. What the fuck, dude? Like, I couldn't have afforded a mortgage like that when I was in my 20s. Not a chance. It's a really scary place for young people to be flying the coop and starting life as young adults right now, with the way that our economy is. And if you can't fucking buy a house, then that means you're throwing your money away month after month after month after month in rent in some capacity. And if you're throwing your money away and you're not making equity in a home, like, here's the thing. Yeah, mortgages can be expensive, but how it usually works, short of a collapse, which we've went through a couple, but normally a home is an investment, right? I've made a lot of money on the home, one of the homes that I bought and sold, the one we lived in California. And so it's very apparent to me that at some point the insustainability, if that's a word, that our country is going to experience has to end with some type of catastrophe. What that is, your guess is as good as mine. I'm not here to necessarily suggest what I think that's going to be, because I think it could be a combination of a lot of things. I think it could be an economic collapse in conjunction with possibly the grid going down. That could come from either by design or by default or just by incompetence. I think the government could actually fucking launch cyber attacks. I think the government could attempt to really take control again, like they were trying in 2020. I just don't think we're going to go into the 2024 election cycle without some type of chaos and some type of catastrophe. That is what my gut tells me. And maybe I'm a fucking crazy old man, but here's the beauty in it. I don't care either. And you shouldn't. Because if you care, that tells me that you are not physically, mentally, and emotionally ready to protect your family and do what you need to do. Don't get me wrong, guys. I am not in a place for a catastrophe to happen right now. I think that I have enough equipment, and I have my property, and I have lots of guns, lots of ammo. I invested in lots of heirloom seeds, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of fishing equipment, because my property is on a river that has a lot of trout. a bunch of tools to be able to build log cabins by hand. And not only the tools, but I bought a bunch of actual physical books that are step-by-step how to build log cabins by hand. I bought books on physical books that are in my apocalypse case on curing and smoking meats with nothing more than smoke and salt. Things like that, right? And I have a lot more than just those things, but that's kind of some of the stuff that comes to mind. So if this were to ever happen, I do think I'm ahead of 99% of society, but I'm also not where I want to be. And if you're not where you want to be, there's a little bit of uncertainty there. And it makes you think like, fuck, man, I got to do this. I got to do this. Like one thing that I want to put out on a cabin in my property, the spring of 2024, I want to have at least a cabin large enough to house my family. And I want a wood fire stove. And then I also want what I've seen, I've been looking at them online, is a wood fire oven and stovetop. Now, yeah, most wood fire stoves, you could set a pot on and boil water, right? But they actually make wood fire ovens where you can actually put food inside and bake inside and things like that. I just want enough of the things that I think need to be in motion. So I have that peace of mind that if I need it, I have it. And the one other thing that I think is really going to be imperative is some type of off-grid power source, be it, and I'm not super familiar with how all this works, with solar and the battery banks and all of those things. But I've been looking at different like water wheels, or they have, I don't even know how you describe them. It almost looks like a torpedo with fins. And you place that in the river, and the movement of the water circles the propeller, or cycles the propeller rather, and generates power. And then the power goes back and gets stored in a battery bank of some sort. And I don't know how long those like Tesla battery banks are good for, but I don't want to have all that stuff set up, because if it's set up, it's now getting wear and tear. It's getting use. I just want to have all that stuff secure in a Connex box somewhere. In the event we need it, I know that we have it. Because yes, guys, having good combat equipment, night vision, radios, firearms, which I have all that stuff already, that alone is going to set you apart from most people. But some of the things that I was just speaking of, like generators or different ways of generating power, or like the wood fire stove, good luck finding something like that when it comes time to need it. But here's the dichotomy. How much time and energy and money do you invest in those things? Because if we ever were to need it, we're going to wish we invested everything in it. But if you invest everything in it and you don't need it, it kind of feels like a big fucking waste, right? And so that's where I'm at on that. And this is kind of what I've landed on. I am going to attempt to build my businesses to the highest capacity that I can in 2024. I am going to try and make the things that are producing income for me as successful as I can in the next 12 months. What that's going to do, it's going to give me the ability to invest more in the things that I think are necessary if shit hits the fan. And guys, I say it all the time, but whenever we talk about this, and probably not with our listeners, because you guys are of a warrior culture and a prepared mindset and better every day, all the shit we always talk about. I don't think people that chase the things that we chase think that it sounds crazy to talk about this. But for the people that think it sounds fucking crazy and we're lunatics, again, read a history book. Like, I'm watching another series, another like historical series on the Roman Empire, and every society, I mean, they went through this when Caesar Augustus left Rome for a while, and members of the Senate were taking control of the grain, and people were starving, and the politicians were using their power and their resource to starve people to ensure that they get to stay in power, but also they were using their power to do backdoor deals with the grain. So while the Romans were starving, there was a select few people that were getting rich. Guys, this shit happens. It's always happened. It's always going to happen. And guess what happens? People get fed up enough to where they're like, you know what? Fuck you. Your corruption, you're being subjugated. I'm done with all this bullshit. Fuck you. And violence ensues. Welcome to the human experience. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way. And it's going to happen. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know why, but it's going to happen sooner or later. So if you know it's going to happen, maybe we should just think about it and invest in it a little bit. And that's kind of where I'm at on it. And then here's what's weird. One of my jiu-jitsu students who's been with me, well, it's actually Danny from last week's episode. Right when he signed up, he brought me a book. And he goes, hey, I think you'd like this book. It's called Wrath of the Wendigo. And guys, I'm telling you, go buy this book. It's a short read. It's written by a guy named Clay Martin, who's a former Green Beret. And it's kind of spooky because the intro to the book, it says, Clay says, this isn't my story. I didn't come up with it. I don't know if it's like a warning or destiny or a fable or if it's just bullshit. He goes, I don't know. It's not my story. I went out to the mountains and I had a vision. And in my vision was this story. And part of that vision, I was told, go home and tell this story and write it. Which is kind of bizarre, right? I mean, yeah, it's kind of bizarre. It's really fucking bizarre. And the guy is a Green Beret. He's squared away. I mean, it's not like some fucking dude fell off his meds and wrote some crazy story. It's a respectable, intelligent human being that said he had a vision and was told he needed to write the vision down. And the vision is about what they call Cascadia. And Cascadia is the new republic, basically, that gets so fed up with the corruption that they go to war with the U.S. government. And I'm only 50 pages in, but inside of 50 pages, man, there's a lot of little nuggets of wisdom. And, you know, one thing that he said, and it's the main character so far who's part of the resistance, his name's General Hansen. He said, we have a saying, words invite words and deeds invite deeds. And he said that in retaliation because they blew up a bridge that was trying to move a bunch of Somali immigrants into a town in Idaho. And the people of that town said, we can't house immigrants. We don't want immigrants. The U.S. government keeps bringing these people in, forcing them into our community, and you're not fucking doing it anymore. And they blew up a bridge as a result of this. And of course, they're considered terrorists and they're considered all of these different things. And he is being interrogated by a Secret Service agent. And I won't go into it, all of it, but bro, I'm telling you, it's a fascinating fucking book. Regardless if Clay Martin's vision is something that's rooted in reality or if he just got really fucking high one night and thought up some crazy shit, it's a fascinating read either way. The general, or no, he's a colonel. The colonel that kind of launches the offensive against the American government. He says how it all kicked off is he was sitting in his house watching his neighbors through a spotting scope, and he was watching this father abuse his children. He's like, you know what? I can't take this. I'm a man. I have morals. He goes down there and he slaps the dude across the face. And he said, I slapped him with the intent of him wanting to hit me back, and then we get in a gnarly fight and I kill him. That's what he wanted to do. But he said he slapped the guy, and then he just looked at the ground and didn't do anything. And it's like, fuck, coward. But that's how most people would probably react in our society. All the shit talkers on Instagram that are tough behind their keyboards, if you literally slapped them in the face, I bet they wouldn't have much to say to you. So he said he went back to his house, let it die down. made sure the guy didn't call the cops, make sure there was no issues. And then a couple weeks later, he went back over there and he killed him. And they're like, what? Why'd you go back over there and kill him? And he said, it's a very important lesson in and of itself. Never let a coward that you have humiliated live. He may recover and find the balls enough to shoot you in the back. And that's where we're fucking going, guys. That will be the reality in America one day. And again, who knows when? I don't know when. Might fucking happen in our lifetimes. It might happen June of 2024. But if it doesn't happen in 2024, we're not going to talk about it anymore, because there's probably, you just got to reach a point where it's like, okay, my ducks are in a row. I've done what I needed to do. I feel like I'm in a good spot, but we probably just don't need to harp on it anymore. So for me, that date is December 31st of 2024. The one other thing that I think would be a good idea for most listeners is to plot a food forest somewhere. A food forest is, you have to look at your natural environment, because guys, plants and edible plants don't exist because of farms. Edible plants, fruits and vegetables exist because they're part of fucking nature. So we have to figure out what is native or what can thrive in the environment that you currently occupy, and just go plant a bunch of it. Find a bunch of different edible plants that can coexist and live in harmony. Like, you walk out in the Pacific Northwest right now, what do we have? You have blackberries, you have ferns, you have cedar trees, you have fucking maple trees, alderwood. The list goes on and on and on and on of the plants that can cohabitate with each other. Well, you can find plants that can cohabitate with each other that are edible, and you just go plant them and you let them live. You let them do their thing. And instead of doing like this big harvest where you go out there and you chop everything down and you start over, you go out there and you take what you need for a meal, or what your family needs for the week, instead of decimating it and starting over every year, which has become, like mainstream agriculture, how we do things. Because obviously, guys, a giant food forest isn't sustainable to feed America. I get that. But if you needed to feed your family, it does become a viable option. So that is another one of my 2024 goals. I want to get the food forest going. I want to get the cabin and just have enough things to where it's like, okay, I'm fucking good, Other than that, guys, my two projects that I want to invest in is Forge Ferocity, and I want to get my book out in 2024. The book is well over half done. I've been hammering away at it. I'm very proud of how it is coming together. And I don't care if it sells one copy or a million, someone's going to take value from this. And that's what is exciting and what motivates me to write it. The book is called Courage Through Adversity. And I divided the book into two phases. Part one is my journey, and part two is our journey. What those two different parts of the book represent is, I feel like my journey has to be articulated to readers just so they realize that there is some validity to my words based on my experience. If you just fucking sit in your mother's basement for 40 years masturbating to porn, and then you want to write a book on how to better your life and how to face adversity and become stronger, you're probably not going to hold the validity to be able to do that. But that's why I think it's important for me to outline all of the different things in my life that I've done, from Ranger Regiment to contracting to law enforcement to business owner, jiu-jitsu. And I go into like going through bouts of depression, suicidal ideations, like all the things we talk about on the show, I talk about in the book. And then part two is how we move forward as individuals. You have to first grow yourself as an individual, someone that you are proud of. And what that does is it helps you become strong as a family. That helps you become strong as a community. That helps you become strong as a county, as a state, as a nation. Like, it literally starts with you in your house, fixing yourself first. And once you do that, Now you have the ability to help others get on the path and fix themselves. But if you're just sitting back preaching to people, telling them what to do while you're not trying to do it yourself, no one's going to ever listen to you, and you're never going to be able to gain any traction or any momentum. So that's the book. And, I have a couple friends, like Mike Glover's one of them, that said when it comes time to publish, he's going to help me because he's went through that process recently with Prepared, the book that he released a couple months back. And he says he has a couple publishers that he thinks would be a good fit for me. And it's pretty cool that I decide to write a book and I'm halfway done and boom, one of my buddies has some connections and he's going to help me along the way. But that's kind of life, right? You put yourself out there, you invest in friendships, they come full circle. And when you're in need of something, you usually have people that are going to help you out. So it's pretty exciting. And then the next thing is the Forge Ferocity online accountability community. It's funny because forgeferocity.com, which we purchased, is being built. I hired a website designer who's building it. And it's not as easy as like my electric jiu-jitsu website because it needs to host a robust forum network. Because I want a lot of people to be able to interact with each other, post media. And so what we had to do is we used Bluehost with WordPress. And for those guys that are fucking tech people, you might know what that means. That's about the extent of what I know. But that's a good Bluehost with the WordPress capability, from what I understand, is the best option to really have a massive amount of capacity to host forums. And in a world where most online experiences are toxic and people are full of shit and people are talking shit to each other and people are just being fucking ugly, that's not what this is about. What this is about is every Monday we sit down and we have a Zoom meeting, which if you can make it, cool. If you can't, it'll be posted. This week's Zoom meeting available right here in this forum. And I want to interact with you guys. I want to talk to you guys. I want to set goals. I want to look at people. It's not sitting across the table from them, but it is looking at them through technology. And it is an option that is not as good as being part of a team physically, but I do think it's the next best thing. And we talk about things, we set goals, and most importantly, we keep each other accountable. And we talk about, hey, I wanted to do this. And where are you at on this? What steps have you taken? What's your weight at? How many workouts did you get in last week? How many days of jiu-jitsu did you get in? What are you eating? How's the relationship with the wife going since you've changed A, B, and C? And again, guys, like I said earlier in the podcast, it's not, hey, Greg Anderson, fucking life coach guru, sign up for his thing and everything gets fixed. Guys, we're going to be helping each other. You're going to be helping me. I'm going to be helping you. I think it's going to be unlike other online coaching communities. My friend Stephen Hand, who did a podcast with me, 3 months ago or something, he was the guy that came up to my gym at 275 pounds and in a matter of no time was in the 220s and completely changed his life because he decided to change. And the other day he came up to me and he goes, hey, when is Forge Ferocity going live? I said, dude, we're still working out some kinks, but why? Why? What? I was kind of perplexed. Like, why does he want to be part of it? Because he's part of electric jiu-jitsu right here. And he has his community and he's helped or he has a lot of people that can help him and vice versa. And he goes, man, I came here. This place changed my life. I'm a different person. And I feel compelled to be able to give that back to other people as well now. And he goes, and yeah, I can give it back to people at the gym, but I want to be able to reach more people too and tell them about my story and be able to motivate them and inspire them to change because I just did it and it works. And I've got a lot of emails like that and a lot of messages on Instagram like that. People are excited to not only find a community where they can be held accountable and they can become better, but also a community where they can help other people obtain those things. It's fascinating. That's what we fucking need. That is what sets us apart from the people that just sit on their couch and fucking bitch and moan. We want to get better ourselves while simultaneously helping those to our left and our right get better. And again, guys, if you're 300 pounds and you've never fucking walked a quarter of a mile in your life, and you listen to this podcast and you say, man, I want to be part of Forge Ferocity because I think it's going to help me get better. You're damn right it's going to help you get better. And the people that are going to be part of this community are going to respect the fuck out of you for stepping up, getting out of your comfort zone and saying, I'm going to try something new and scary and different. And they're going to rally behind you. And that kind of support is what changes people's lives. And I've said it before on the podcast, man, I'm getting fired up just talking about it right now. Like I feel fucking fired up. I know it works because I've seen it work here at Electric Jiu-Jitsu. You get enough people that are on the same mission. There is no toxicity. There is no bullshit. There is no fucking hate. There is no fucking like online bullying and all the bullshit. It's people wanting to be better themselves while simultaneously helping other people. You connect those people together and the fucking magic happens. The fucking magic happens. And I've said it plenty. I didn't create the magic. I didn't come up with the formula to the magic. What I did see is I observed how it works. I've seen it work. And now I know how to build things to allow the magic to come together and do what it does. And that's the two ingredients you need. People that need help and people that want to help other people. That's the formula. And just because you sign up wanting to mentor and help other people, that doesn't mean that the other people aren't going to mentor and help you. I say it all the time at the gym. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, but don't call me professor. Call me Greg. Because I'm not better than you. I'm not up here on a pedestal. I'm just a guy that has done more jiu-jitsu than you, and I'm better at jiu-jitsu than you, so I'm here to teach you jiu-jitsu. But I have one of my blue belts, his name's Steven, he's a gunsmith and he reloads ammunition and he can fucking build firearms. Well, there may be a time when Steven's expertise takes precedence. And I say, hey man, can you show me how to reload ammo? Can you teach me that? You think I'm going to have to call him professor when I'm in his garage and he's teaching me how to reload? It's fucking ludicrous. It's the same reason people don't have to call me professor when they come into my house and I show them jiu-jitsu. And every single last person in the team has some type of skill set that can enrich my life, and I have skill sets that can enrich their lives. And that's where the magic happens. Once you learn that, once you feel that, once you see that, once you're a part of that, it is not mistakable. And it's been such a big thing in my life and impacted me and this team so greatly that I've decided it's time to try and take that to an online capacity. What will that look like exactly? There's going to be some fucking bumps and bruises along the way, you know? It's not like we're going to fucking Forge Ferocity goes live and boom, it's just everything's perfect. Like it's going to be a work in progress because at the end of the day, I'm not sitting across a fucking room from you talking to you face to face. But I do think we can take the technology available and make this something extremely beneficial for people that want to be part of it. You know, I told you guys on the last time we talked about it, it's going to be $42 a month. And I'm going to be investing a lot of my time into this, which I'm not complaining about. I'm excited to. But I landed on that number because I feel like that is very affordable and very sustainable for most people that want to change their lives. And so I literally got an email while we were sitting here. I saw the notification come up from my website builder. I was hoping it would be live by January 1st for obvious reasons. Like we talked about, a lot of people are called to become better on the first of the year. That's just a natural thing. New year, new motivation, new goals. And I thought it would be good to have that available for the people that feel that the first of the year is a good time for them to embark on a new journey. But like every single project on planet Earth, it always takes more money, more time, and more energy, and unforeseen problems pop up. So we're getting it done, guys. All right. I am not going to set a date. I was going to say by February 1st, because I think that should be reasonable. But if I put that out there and then there's 3 more unforeseen issues, it's just going to fucking put undue stress on me. So I will keep you guys updated as it becomes closer and closer. And when we go live, I am excited to be able to connect with you and make this online community positively impact people's lives. Other than that, guys, it's an hour and 9 minutes. We are done for today. That's what the solo episodes get, usually about an hour. But I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys listening. And we're going to be back next week with the Jiu-Jitsu Chronicles Part 3, the Ukis. And the Ukis are my savage blue belts that help me teach class every single night. The art of the Uki is something that is underrated. A good Uki is one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable team member of the gym. And I'm going to highlight that next week. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon.